Well, I got a little ditty about a thing that's not so pretty. It's a precipice we call the fiscal cliff.
Political satire, Eric Pusey, and reaction to Minnesota's new marriage equality law, now on Democratic Visions. Democratic Visions is handcrafted by volunteers through DFL's Senate District 48, Eden Prairie and Minnetonka. Now here's host, Tim O'Brien.
In politics, as in life, you win some and you lose some. That goes for elections and activists, as well as the debates and votes that go on in Washington and St. Paul. Ordinarily, lawmakers, reform groups, and political pundits muddle on without much laughter. Tom Hauser on KSTP's At Issue attempts to lighten the show with Letterman and Leno clips. The Daily Show on Comedy Central is absolutely top-drawer satire. It was created in part by Bloomington's Liz Winstead. Her brother Gene is Bloomington's mayor. We're taping this show in Gene Winstead's Bloomington City Hall studio. He's a great mayor, but I hear that he doesn't get many laughs on cable TV. But over the next half hour, we're going to be sampling some satirical bits from Vancouver, Los Angeles, and Minnesota's own Senate District 48 DFL.
Well, I got a little ditty about a thing that's not so pretty. It's a precipice we call the fiscal cliff.
These are video wags who score satirical points with the fiscal cliff, global warming, Canadian tar sands mining, and the National Rifle Association. And that is why I'm delighted to have Eric Pusey back with us. Welcome, Eric.
Great to be here.
Eric co-founded and manages Minnesota Progressive Project, a fine lefty blog whose writers are continually either amazed or aghast by what they see. Now, when the Republicans controlled the legislature 2 years ago, a lot of weird stuff went on. In the minority, as they are this legislative session, are they trying to replicate some of those things that went on back then?
I got a great example. Tony Cornish of Good Thunder, he's a Republican, introduced a bill to arm teachers.
Arm teachers.
Can you imagine this? Okay, teachers, welcome back from summer. Over on the table, you'll see your class lists and your Glock 9mm and your AK-15s. And don't forget to pick up your coupon for lessons for your guns.
And I hope you are going to tell me that that died an ignominious death.
Nothing ever happened with it, yes.
Let's talk a little more about politics. Who's that guy from up north? Chip? What?
Chip Kravac.
Oh yeah, Chip Kravac. Now, where is he these days?
Well, he's living the high life in his home state of New Hampshire now.
New Hampshire.
But he's got it great. So before he ran for office, he had a flight, an NWA pension, right? Because he's a pilot who couldn't fly because of sleep apnea. Now that he's done with Congress, he's got that pension and the full pension for being a congressman. The guy's sitting pretty.
Well, and his staff isn't doing too bad either, at least towards the end of the year. As I recall, he gave them all about a 25% boost.
So they got, when they lost their jobs, they got unemployment, and they get all the benefits that they get at that new salary. Yeah, it's quite nice of them.
Unbelievable. Not that you're becoming too serious here, Eric, but let's look at the first of our 4 satirical videos. Actor Ronnie Butler Jr. has appeared in scores of live theater productions as well as television series, including 3 years on the sitcom True Jackson VP. Mr. Butler also writes, directs, and performs his own series of video satires. His Gilbert and Sullivan take on President Obama went viral. That's Ronnie as Barack. Here's Ron Butler's latest turn, Obama's fiscal cliff riff.
Well, I got a little ditty about a thing that's not so pretty. It's a precipice we call the fiscal cliff. A mechanism put in place, a deadline that we can't erase to force the nation into economic thrift. There are tax cuts that are ending and some major cuts in spending. Time is short, we need some compromising luck. It's financial stormy weather, gotta get it together or the country will be well and truly over the fiscal cliff. The fiscal cliff, we might just fall off the fiscal cliff. They must have been smoking a big fat spliff when they came up with the idea of the fiscal cliff. After winning the election based on middle-class protection, my solution will do that to this, I swear. Cut some military spending and the Bush cuts we're extending have Republicans just rending out their hair. If the impending sequestration has you filled with trepidation, it's a simple thing, just tell the GOP to get their heads out of their ass and either help the middle class or follow Norquist out like lemmings to the sea. Over the fiscal cliff, the fiscal cliff. We're all gonna fall off the fiscal cliff. They lost and they're feeling a little bit miffed, so they're gonna drag us over the fiscal cliff. Well, I've heard that Speaker Boehner looks a lot like Mitzi Gaynor when he's drunk and he puts on a dress and heels. Karl Rove is an affliction, what he says pure science fiction, and Dan Coulter, a provoking bitch on wheels. course, between just me and you, it could be none of this is true. It's called conjecture, but you know now what I think. I've got to reach across the aisles, and I've got 4 more years of smiling at the that have brought us to the brink. So if you're famous like Rihanna and you're wealthy like Madonna, or the guy they call the Donald, Mr. Trump, I'm gonna raise your taxes. It's financial prophylaxis to protect us from a total fiscal crunch. And the way that it's been crafted, corporations to get shafted, tell the wealthy Robin Hood is on the way. And I'm sorry, boo-boo honey, now you're white trash making money like the rest of them. You're gonna have to pay or face the fiscal cliff, the fiscal cliff. We might just fall off the fiscal cliff. You say what you mean and the filters lift when you're standing at the edge of the fiscal cliff. The fiscal cliff, the fiscal cliff. The GOP's flirting with the fiscal cliff like Thelma and Louise. This partisan rift is gonna drive us right off of the fiscal. Wow. It's a long way down.
To see and learn about Ronnie Butler, he's on Facebook and he has 2 websites, RonnieButler.com and ObamaImpersonator.com. Really talented guy. Ronnie Butler on Facebook, RonnieButler.com and ObamaImpersonator.com.
He's got some funny material. What I think is particularly funny is now that the sequester is hit, Republicans are shocked that that actually could have happened. Michelle Bachmann, as an example, said, that's why I voted against the sequester, because I knew it would hurt poor people.
What a bunch of you-know-what.
Yeah, because they don't beep those out, so you got to be careful what you say with those, because we have clear track record of her voting to cut all kinds of services for the poor. And during the discussion of the sequester, she wanted it more harsh than it turned out to be.
That, of course, probably is through a spokesperson, because I doubt if she was on the floor offering up those remarks.
Well, after she lost the presidential bid, then she did return to her day job. But I realized something that I think is critical about Michelle.
What's that?
Why the media is so bad at covering her.
Well, we know the media is terrible at covering her, but what's the reason?
It's because she doesn't behave like a normal politician. Most politicians try to pass bills. Michelle does not do legislation. They have ribbon-cutting ceremonies in their district. She doesn't go there very often. She's touring the nation at fundraisers, events. She's on Fox News, on right-wing radio. She doesn't have time for those normal things. So the press just doesn't know what to do. So they don't cover her very much.
And by press, you mean the Minneapolis and St. Paul newspapers?
The TV, radio, except for occasionally Minnesota Public Radio will cover things that are not the normal things that politicians do.
Beyond our Minnesota borders, lack of political progress on climate change and Canadian tar sands extraction are maddening. Here's producer Jeff Strait and video satire from Vancouver.
I am disappointed in the lack of political video satire in the Twin Cities, except our own, of course, but I found a Canadian group on YouTube. The Vancouver group calls itself Deprogrammed. It splashes vinegar on the life political. Well, Minneapolis and St. Paul could use more of what Vancouver has. For example, since Paul Douglas and Don Shelby left Channel 4, we don't hear much about climate change. Global warming is happening. CO2 levels are at dangerous levels. It's May, the temperature is 98, and I've got bananas growing in my backyard. We've got a problem here, but no one is holding Minnesota's politicians and TV news types accountable for their lack of urgency. It's the same in Vancouver, and Deprogram doesn't like it.
Well, it's the Labor Day weekend. Last chance to lounge by that pool and wrap up your summer reading list. Pippa's standing by with the full forecast. Pippa, looks like that nice warm weather isn't quite ready to leave.
I don't know why you would imagine that it would. We've broken thousands of temperature records across the country and the planet this year. In fact, we're heading into the 329th consecutive month with a global temperature above the 20th century average.
Definitely time to light up that barbecue.
Yes, the barbecue.
Pippa, I think the folks at home are probably about ready for that 7-day forecast.
Okay, sure. Let's start up north, way up north. This week, satellites measured the smallest area of Arctic sea ice coverage in recorded history. That's 4 million square kilometers of ice missing since the 1980s. Where did it go? That's bigger than India. And it's happening so quickly, some researchers are now forecasting a summer with no ice in the Arctic Ocean within 10 years. So instead of a bright white sheet reflecting sunlight back into space, that means dark water sucking up even more heat, making it melt faster and faster. Most scientists prefer the friendlier term of feedback loop, but I'm more inclined to call it what it is, an inescapable death spiral.
I think there's a feedback loop in my earpiece, because I believe I just heard myself ask you for the weather report.
This is the weather report. This is what's happening. Scientists are telling us we can put 565 more gigatons of carbon into the atmosphere before global temperatures rise by 2 degrees, which is universally accepted as the threshold of total mayhem. Except if you add up the proven reserves of fossil fuels controlled by the world's energy companies, the oil and gas and coal we currently plan to burn, that amount is 5 times the safe limit. So if you think it's bad now, you just wait and see what hell we're going to unleash once we start drilling under the Arctic and digging up the tar sands so you can drive 3 blocks to get an ice cap. You think all of this extreme weather is a coincidence? You want the weather report? This is a reality report!
So all in all, a great Labor Day weekend and good times for the air conditioner industry.
Until the power goes out, you moron!
In other news, Chavril madness is sweeping the nation. Canada's royal couple of rock was spotted canoodling.
Now, if you want to see more Deep Row Graham, go to deeprowgraham.com. Before his animated spoof about the Northern Gateway Pipeline through Alberta and British Columbia, cartoonist Dan Murphy held sway for 25 years at the Vancouver province. It's Western Canada's biggest newspaper, and a lot of its revenue comes from running oil and pipeline industry ads. Well, he bit the hand that fed his boss. Murphy now contributes animation to Deep Row Graham. Now, we want you to meet Lamar, one of Dan's characters. Lamar thinks that the tar sand oil business has a public relations problem. Now, Lamar is an idea and image guy, and he knows where the money is.
Hi, my name is Lamar, and I'm a designer. My 2 great passions are design and Canada. And I wanted to combine these 2 passions, so I asked myself, what does Canada need design-wise? When people come to visit Canada, what they go home with Mountie souvenirs and maple syrup in fanciful containers and snow. But this is not your grandpa's Canada. This isn't just a place full of polar bears anymore. In fact, soon not a place of polar bears at all, maybe. This is the new Canada, the Canada of oil miners, where the government says, get back, stand back, you caribou, stand back, nature. We're mining oil here. So what Canada needs is a new kind of souvenir that celebrates that reflects the abundance of our oil sands in a positive way, so that tourists can go home and say, whoa, they're mining oil there. So what I designed for this is it's like your traditional what is called a snow globe, but what we'll have under the glass here is a sculpture of one of the architects of the new Canada, such as the Prime Minister Harper or the Environment Minister Peter Kent. And instead of snow inside, we'll have, in the larger ones maybe a pint, in the smaller ones a cup and a half of actual tar sands from Alberta. Black gold. The blood in the veins for the new Canada. I don't like the term tar sands. I prefer oil sands, what you call your bitumen, which is oil mixed with sand to the consistency of tar. Anyway, a serious souvenir, a real keepsake of the new Canada. Here is a smaller bitumen globe, this one with a Canadian goose. This is a medium-sized one with Natural Resource Minister Joe Oliver inside. Or a statue of Joe Oliver inside, a facsimile. Oops. Okay, that won't happen. This is a prototype. That won't happen. So what I want to do is get these out to all tourist stands and shops in Canadian airports and in Niagara Falls and all the tourist hubs, Toronto, Vancouver, Banff, Toronto, Moncton. And That's where I need your help. If you send $1, $5, that would be nice. I would be grateful. But you'll have to take my word for it. I won't be sending out thank yous for $1, $5. I mean, I'm busy here. And actually, instead of a whole lot of little donations, which I'll take, that's fine, what I'm going for is a few big donations. So next up, from the $1 and $5 donation range, we have the $400,000 range. I'm thinking if you're an Alberta Oil Company executive and an environment minister, this might appeal to you. And for that, you will get a personally signed thank you. 2 of the large Harper Tar Globes, 1 of the medium-sized Peter Kent Tar Globes, and 5 Canadian Geese Tar Globes. For a $720,000 donation, if you're a state-owned oil giant, Sinopec for example, this is probably the range you'll be comfortable with. You would get the thank you, the 2 large, 1 medium, 5 goose-sized Tar Globes, an additional 8 Joe Oliver Tar Globes, that will be fixed, and I will rename my son, which I will learn how to pronounce. And for the $950,000 contribution, I'll only be taking 2 of these. So if you're an oil pipeline company wanting to make an oil pipeline company-sized donation to help make this dream happen, Enbridge, TransCanada, Kinder Morgan, one of you is going to be left out. This level donation, you will get a signed thank you, the 2 large, 1 Peter Kent medium, 5 geese, and 8 Joe Oliver-sized Tar Globes, containing authentic Alberta oil sand bitumen. One of my daughters will be renamed after your particular pipeline, and my son will, as soon as he finishes high school, sign on to work on pipeline construction or security or cleanup, though I'm sure that won't be necessary. So, my name is Lamar. Help make this dream come true. Thank you. That will be fixed.
Deep Program videos can be seen anytime at deeprogram.com. That's deeprogram.com. That's where you'll find Lamar. But Dan Murphy has lots more stuff on the Daniel Murphy YouTube channel. Look for the Daniel Murphy YouTube channel.
Legislative leaders in St. Paul and Washington are claiming they don't have enough votes for new gun control laws this year. After Columbine, Red Lake, Rocori, Bryn Mawr, Newtown, and other mass shootings, they say there are not enough votes for better background checks, not enough votes to reduce the number of bullets that wingnuts can fire in a few seconds. The National Rifle Association and the gun makers and the ammo industry are profiting from the very paranoia that they've injected into the debate. But we have the junkyard Democrats.
Saturday, Tommy, Norm, and I were watching reruns of the NRA convention in Texas. People like Sarah Palin and Wayne LaPerriere were warning that democracy was under attack and that people like us were going to save the democracy. We play air guitar, but our guns are real. When it comes to truth and the American way, consider the junkyard Democrats your first responders.
NRA members and people like you all over this country have been standing up for freedom and standing up to the media for decades.
Tommy, Norm, what's this?
The media and the political elites have lied about us, demonized us, and attempted to marginalize our Second Amendment freedom.
Hell, my Second Amendment freedoms have never been threatened.
I don't get it.
It's the faces that I see here today and the millions who are with us in spirit. How I love you guys. Keeps me optimistic. Keeps us reloading in this fight.
Oofta.
You're in a fight in which the people with the policies they admit won't work are the good guys, and the folks protecting freedom are somehow the bad guys.
Sweet Jesus.
And yet you don't give up.
After the Sandy Hook incident, there were 2 responses to this national tragedy. President Obama went to the microphone and blamed the problem on our citizens' access to firearms and wanted gun control legislation.
Yeah, but that was to outlaw turning a rifle into a machine gun.
In contrast, the NRA wanted to commit resources to improve the safety of our nation's schools.
Run that one by me again.
Well, one of their plans was to arm grade school teachers. They can't fund the classrooms, but they want to buy guns?
Good business move for the ammo and gun industry.
Yeah, no kidding. The paranoid rush on the gun stores started already.
President Obama, he is capitalizing on the cultural differences in America, where some of us, yes, we cling to our guns and religion, and others, well, they have a different approach.
We sure do, Mr. Whack Job.
Just look at the past 5 months. We've seen the politicians, the national media, and their billionaire supporters attack us, ridicule us, and worst of all, blame us for the acts of violent criminals and madmen.
This guy's an outright liar.
Think about that.
They've called gun owners just about every rotten, lousy, nasty, evil name in the book.
The NRA has nothing to say about pheasant and grouse hunters.
Nothing for duck and deer hunters like us. It's time for a song, boys.
Yep, that's the ticket.
I'm feeling the love.
Ah,
Yeah, there you go.
Beautiful. Thanks.
Okay.
This land is your land. This land is my land.
Not for long.
From California to New York Island, from the redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for the
No matter how cynical I get about the paranoids and the NRA, it's never enough. No one is trying to take away our guns.
Not my pistol, not Norb's rifle, not Doug's shotgun. But a gun like this is for killing lots of people very quickly. No civilian has a right to own a gun like this.
So there you have it, Eric. The National Rifle Association and the Junkyard Democrats. Who comes out on top?
Those guys are artistes.
Let's talk about the gun legislation that seems to have died an unnatural death over in St. Paul. Tell us about that.
Well, it seems the NRA and the NRA stooges have won. That's sad. We've had some shootings in our state. The primary issue at the state capitol is background checks. Just generally any kind of background checks at gun shows over the internet.
Extending the background checks to gun shows, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And they were able to defeat it by convincing enough rural Democrats that they were going to take away people's guns and things, you know, much like the video we saw of, you know, Tommy and the boys were talking about, that stuff.
Well, now, it occurs to me, and I'm just somebody on the outside looking in, that I really can't fault Democratic legislative leadership over there, other than perhaps they should have twisted some more arms. But that's a tough vote, I suspect, for people to take in the legislature. And if you're not going to have the votes to win on an issue, it doesn't occur to me that it's necessarily strategic to
lose badly.
To lose on that kind of issue. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Republicans and the NRA stooges are pushing a whole bunch of lies, and they're doing it consistently. And enough people are buying into that, and which is really sad.
So let's look forward to 2014.
I think it's looking really good. With the Republican Party in disarray, we're on the upswing. We know how to win. Mark Dayton has been a very reasonable governor. I think his popularity has increased. The polls I've seen have indicated that, so it's looking good for Mark.
Do you have any sense of whether the Democratic Party is going to be able to retain control of the State House in next year's election?
I certainly believe so. Democrats do well at governing. Republicans do well at shrieking and crying, running on wedge issues, and explaining how government doesn't work. And so since government's been working, we have a great shot of getting keeping our majorities. But the bottom line, once again, is the Republican Party is in disarray. That's their problem. They're going to be having a major fight about a year from now, and it's going to get real ugly. And some people are probably going to go home with hurt feelings.
And that's the Libertarian wing and the Tea Party wings are going at it?
With the institutional Republicans. What Republican candidates have to do now is prove that they're the most crazy. They got to get endorsed. So they have to prove they're wackadoodles.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be coming out with Michelle Bachmann-like conspiracy theories. Remember Tom Emmer and his line about the servers make $100,000? Mm-hmm. That's just accepted beliefs among the right-wing nut job scene. And so they have to convince these people that I'm the nut job for you.
Before we go, here's a Democratic Visions news brief. The big news this May was the passage of Minnesota's same-sex marriage law. All but 2 state legislators from Bloomington, Edina, Eden Prairie, Hopkins, Richfield, Minnetonka, and Plymouth voted yes for this historic law. Among them, Republican Jennifer Loon. Minnesota thus becomes the 12th state with the same-sex marriage law.
How quickly this vote comes on the heels after 2 years ago when the amendment was placed on the ballot.
Former Speaker of the House, Margaret Anderson.
What happened in the ensuing 2 years is Minnesotans had a lot of conversations with each other. Family members, community members, they worked out a lot of these issues. And so
emotions on both sides ran high. DFL Representative John Purcell of Bemidji spoke with calm assurance after the House vote.
As emotional as this is for many people, what we do in law is not about emotion. With regard to marriage in our law, it's about a civil contract, so that's contract law. It's about how things are divided up if a divorce happens. It's about how estates are settled. Those kinds of legal questions is what the law is about when it comes to marriage or civil unions or civil contract. So that's what we've done here today, is we've given everybody those liberties under the Constitution.
In an equal way.
SD 49, DFL 49 is a community-based organization which promotes the election of its candidates for the House and State Senate. We've been lucky that way. We are now represented by Democrats in the state legislature. DFL 49 includes Edina, West Bloomington, and parts of Minnetonka and Eden Prairie.
DFL 48!
DFL 48 includes South Minnetonka and most of Eden Prairie.
Oh, it is my honor and privilege to talk a little bit about Yvonne Seltzer.
DFL Senate Districts 48 and 49 have chosen their officers for the coming year. Already, they are engaged in community service projects.
Oh, thank you.
New DFL 48 Chair Sharon Breen joined State Senate candidate Lori McKendry and other DFLers for the recent U.S. Postal Workers Food Drive. The new team includes Tim Laurie, Associate Chair, and Outreach Officer Abdimalik Mohammed. William Melton was re-elected Chair of DFL 49. Sally Corsell is Associate Chair, and Debbie Strage is the Outreach Officer. Connect to your local DFL party through dfl.org. You'll be helping your communities, your state, and your nation. That's all for now. Thanks, Eric.
Great to be here.
And we'll see you next time.
Democratic Visions is handcrafted by volunteers through DFL Senate District 48, Eden Prairie, and Minnetonka. Sharon Boreen, Chair.